She was just 10, bright, full of life, dreaming of her 11th birthday the next day, a little girl who loved dancing, cartoons, and birthdays. She laughed easily, she loved freely, and she trusted the world around her. And yet, in a quiet apartment, the people meant to protect her failed. The world failed Victoria Martens. How could something like this happen? How could a system designed to protect children falter so completely? Today, we will tell you the story that will shock you, but remember to reflect, ask ourselves what we can do to prevent such tragedies ever happening again. Victoria Martens was a child full of potential. She was in fourth grade, loved dancing, and a bright smile that could light up a room. Her favorite shows, her favorite games, her dreams of birthday parties, they were all ordinary things that defined childhood. She lived with her mother Michael Martens, in Northwest. Michael raised Victoria largely on her own after divorcing her father. From outside. Their life seemed ordinary, a mother and a daughter, like countless others, but behind closed doors was completely different. Reports of neglect had reached the Children, Youth, and Families Department. Calls that could have saved her life, calls that were mishandled, dismissed, or ignored. Months before that fateful night, the system had already failed Victoria. On evening of August 23, 2016, Victoria went on bed expecting the ordinary joy of childhood, birthday plans, laughter, the love of her family. But quiet apartment would become a place where her innocence was betrayed. Three adults would soon become the focus of an investigation. Michael Martins, her mother, Fabian Gonzalez, her mother's boyfriend, and Jessica Kelly, Gonzalez's cousin. Police was called after reports of disturbance and fire. When they arrived, apartment became a crime scene and Victoria was missing. The details of what happened that night would shock the community, not because of the tragedy itself, but because of the betrayal of trust at every level. The adults closest to Victoria were suddenly under security, but full story was completely with twists and no one could imagine. Investigators began piecing together the events of that night. Every message, every online connection, every statement from neighbors and family were carefully revived. Michaels, Fabian, and Jessica all were arrested and charged, but forensic evidence made more complex picture than initially assumed. Earlier confessions and statements shaped public perception. Many believed that crime was straightforward, the mother, her BF, and cousin directly responsible, but evidence suggested otherwise, and questions remained. Even today, investigators have acknowledged the possibility of an unknown fourth individual involved in events of that night. The investigators revealed not only how and what happened to Victoria, but also how the system failed to act on prior reports, how assumptions can mislead an investigation, and how fragile our trust in adults can be when children are at risk. The courtroom became a stage for truth, accountability, and public outrage. Michael eventually accepted a plea deal for child abuse, resulting in death. She would bring random men to her house and let them abuse and rape Victoria, and she eventually showed a cold behavior, saying it was better than losing virginity to a shitty man. She received sentence of 12 years. Jessica pleaded guilty to same was charged for 44 years. Fabian was convicted with child abuse, rape, tampering with evidence, conspiracy receiving 37 years, but acquitted of murder. Courtroom observers described tense hearings, families broken by grief, and community members struggling to reconcile the tragedy with sentences. Questions lingered. Could anything have been done differently? Could system prevented this death? And what of unknown suspects were whose involvement remains uncertain? Courtroom was not just about punishments, it was about asking different questions that society often avoids. How do we protect children when adults they depend on fail them? How do we hold systems accountable for inactions? Victoria's death exposed a system that failed her. Reports to Children, Youth and Families Department had gone unheard. Investigations were so slow, warnings were ignored. Her story sparked legislature hearings and reforms aimed at protecting children in New Mexico, improving interagency communication, and creating stricter protocols for children welfare cases. And yet, reforms, through necessary, couldn't undo the tragedy. Victoria's story serves as a reminder that compassion and accountability are not optional, they are essential. Her life may have been short, but her story sparked reflection, outrage, and hopes for systematic change. Victoria Martens was more than a headline. She was a child with dreams, with laughter, with life yet to live. She reminds us that innocence is precious, that trust is fragile, and that human responsibility extends beyond ourselves. Her story haunts us because it challenges the very idea of safety, care, and morality. And we remember Victoria. Let us also reflect on our own responsibility. It to speak up, to protect vulnerable, and to ensure that